I thought our anniversary was going to be the night everything finally felt right again. Like, when things have been a little off, but you convince yourself it's just stress or bad timing. And then there's this one moment you're holding on to, like, okay, this is where it all fixes itself. That was me last Saturday, getting ready in my apartment, trying on 3 different outfits because Daniel had told me to dress elegant, which should have been my first clue because when had he ever cared about that before? But I ignored it, like I ignored a lot of things back then. For context, Daniel and I had been together for almost 3 years. Not perfect years, obviously, but stable. Like, we had routines, Sunday grocery runs, movie nights where he'd fall asleep halfway through and I'd pretend not to be annoyed. Little traditions like that. He could be sweet when he wanted to. Bring me coffee in the morning, text me good luck before big meetings. But then there were the other moments, the ones I kept brushing off. Comments about my weight disguised as concern. Jokes about how I was low maintenance because I didn't expect much from him. Looking back, that should have hurt more than it did. But at the time, I just thought that was his way of showing love. Messed up, I know. So anyway, I show up to this restaurant downtown, the kind with dim lighting and waiters who speak in whispers and somehow make you feel underdressed no matter what you're wearing. Daniel is already there, sitting at a table near the window, and for a second, everything feels normal. He stands up, kisses me on the cheek, pulls out my chair, like, wow, okay, who is this man and what has he done with my boyfriend? I even joked about it, like, since when are you this fancy? And he just smiled in that way he had that always made me feel like I was missing something, like he knew a secret I didn't. The waiter comes over, pours water, we order drinks. Daniel barely looks at the menu, just says he'll have whatever the chef recommends, which again, not like him at all. This is the same guy who used to complain about paying extra for guacamole. So now I'm sitting there trying to figure out what's going on, but also telling myself to relax. Maybe he's just trying to do something special. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Then the food comes. Appetizers I didn't order, but okay, fine, I go with it. He starts talking about work, how things are changing, how he's been reevaluating priorities, and I nod along, pretending I understand. But there's this weird distance in his voice, like he's rehearsing something halfway through the meal. I notice his phone light up on the table. He flips it over quickly, but not before I see the name Camilla pop up with a heart emoji. My stomach drops just for a second, but I tell myself it's nothing. Could be a cousin, could be literally anything. I mean, I have people saved with emojis too, right? I try to ignore it, but then it happens again. Another notification, same name, same heart. This time, he just leaves the phone face down and keeps talking like nothing's happening. And that's when something in my chest tightens, like this quiet realization that I'm not crazy for noticing things that don't add up. So I ask, casually, "Who's Camilla?" He freezes for half a second. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but I see it. Then he laughs. Oh, just someone from work, helping with a project. And I nod, because what else am I supposed to do? Call him out in the middle of dinner? Make a scene? I've never been that girl. I wish I had been sometimes. The main course arrives, and honestly, I barely taste any of it. My brain is stuck replaying that name, that little heart emoji, the way he avoided eye contact when I asked. But then suddenly, he reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a small box, and my heart does that stupid, hopeful thing, like maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is it, maybe everything is about to make sense. He slides the box across the table toward me and says, "Open it," and I swear my hands were shaking a little, because despite everything, I wanted to believe in this moment so badly. I open the box slowly, expecting a ring or at least something meaningful, but inside is a necklace. Delicate gold with a small pendant. Pretty, but something feels off immediately, like it's not my style at all. I look up at him, trying to smile, and say, "It's beautiful." But before I can finish, he says, "Yeah, she said you'd like something simple like that." And it takes me a second to process what he just said. She said? Who? And then it hits me. Camilla, the same name from the phone, the one with the heart emoji. I feel like the air gets sucked out of the room. I ask, "What do you mean, she said?" And he just kind of shrugs like it's no big deal, like I'm the one making it weird. I showed her a few options and she picked this one, said it fits your vibe. You guys, I just sat there staring at him because there's no way this is real. There's no way my boyfriend of 3 years just admitted to picking out my anniversary gift with another woman like that's a normal thing to do. I try to laugh it off at first, like, okay, that's a weird joke, but he doesn't laugh. He just looks at me like I'm overreacting again. That look like I'm the problem for not understanding something obvious. So I ask again, who is she really? And this time he sighs like I'm exhausting him, like asking basic questions about another woman involved in our relationship is somehow unreasonable. And that's when he says it. She's someone I've been seeing for a while. And I swear my brain just stopped, like it couldn't process the words fast enough. Been seeing for a while? What does that even mean? While we've been together? While we've been building this life? I feel this wave of heat rush through my body, and then suddenly I'm freezing at the same time. I ask, how long? And he hesitates just enough to tell me the answer is bad. About 6 months. 6 months? That's half a year of lies. Half a year of me thinking he was just busy or stressed or tired, when really he was with someone else. And the worst part is the way he says it so calmly, like this is just another conversation over dinner. I ask why he's telling me now. And he leans back in his chair, takes a sip of his drink, and says, because I think it's time to be honest and move on. Move on like I'm some phase he outgrew? Like 3 years of my life are just something he can neatly wrap up and put away? And I'm sitting there trying not to cry in this fancy restaurant, surrounded by people who have no idea my world is literally falling apart, at table 12. I ask if he's leaving me for her, and he shrugs, again, that same infuriating shrug. I don't know, it's just different with her. She understands me better. And I almost laugh, because what does that even mean? Understands you better than the person who stood by you for 3 years, who listened to every complaint, every insecurity, every late night rant? But I don't say that. Instead, I ask why he brought me here, why the big dinner, why the gift, and he actually smiles like he thinks this is thoughtful, like he did me a favor. I wanted to end things properly, give you something nice for everything you've done for me, and I don't even know how to respond to that, because what part of this is proper? What part of humiliating me in public and handing me a gift chosen by your other girlfriend is supposed to be respectful? I look down at the necklace, still sitting in the box, and suddenly it feels heavy, like it represents every lie, every moment I ignored, every time I convinced myself things were fine when they clearly weren't. I push the box back toward him and say, I don't want it, and he looks genuinely confused, like that wasn't part of his script, like I'm not reacting the way he expected. Come on, it's expensive, you should keep it. And that's when something inside me finally snaps. Not loudly, not dramatically, just this quiet shift where I realize I'm done being the person who accepts crumbs and calls it a meal. I stand up slowly, grab my bag, and tell him to give it to her instead, since she picked it anyway. And the first time that night, he looks uncomfortable, like he didn't think I'd actually leave, like I thought I'd sit there and cry or argue or beg for explanations. But I don't. I just walk away, and as I'm heading toward the exit, I hear him call after me, hey, what about the bill? And I stop for a second because of course that's what he's worried about. Not the fact that he just blew up a 3-year relationship, but who's paying for dinner? I turn around and look at him one last time and say, you planned this, you pay for it. And then I walk out of that restaurant with my head held high, even though I can feel tears trembling to spill the second I step outside. The cool night air hits me, and everything I've been holding in just breaks. I'm crying on the sidewalk in heels I can barely walk in, calling the first person I can think of, which is my best friend Laura, who answers on the second ring and immediately knows something is wrong, because I can't even get words out for a second. I just keep saying, it's over, and she keeps asking, what happened? Where are you? Are you safe? And I tell her the name, Camilla, the gift, the way he said it like it meant nothing, and she goes silent for a second before saying, I'm coming to get you, don't move. I sit on a bench outside the restaurant trying to pull myself together, watching couples walk by, laughing, holding hands, completely unaware of how quickly everything can fall apart, and I keep replaying the night in my head, wondering how I missed it, how I didn't see the signs sooner, the late nights, the sudden interest in dressing better, the way he started guarding his phone like it held state secrets. About 10 minutes later, Laura pulls up, and the second I get in the car, I lose it again, like full ugly crying, mascara everywhere, and she just lets me. She doesn't try to fix it or give advice. She just drives us back to my apartment and stays with me while I sit on the floor eating ice cream straight from the container and trying to make sense of everything. At some point, she asks if I want to call him, and I shake my head because what's the point? What is there left to say? He made his choice, and now I have to figure out how to live with it. That night, I barely sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see his face, hear his voice telling me it's time to move on, like I'm the one holding things back, like I'm the problem for not understanding something obvious, but I don't respond. I can't, not yet, because deep down, I know this isn't over, not even close. I didn't answer any of his messages that morning. Not the missed calls, not the texts, not the voice notes where he kept saying we need to talk, like that would somehow fix what he had done. I just stared at my phone for a while, then turned it face down, like if I couldn't see it, it wasn't real. Laura stayed with me longer than she probably planned, just sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone, but every few minutes she'd glance at me, like she was making sure I hadn't completely shut down. At some point she asked, "Are you going to block him?" And I said, "Not yet," because something felt unfinished, like there were pieces missing and I needed to understand everything before I could really let it go. That was probably my second mistake. The first one was trusting him in the first place. Around noon, my phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't Daniel. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something made me open the message. It just said, "Hi, I think you're Daniel's girlfriend, or maybe ex, I'm not sure. This is going to sound crazy, but we need to talk." My heart started racing immediately because there's only one person that message could be from. And sure enough, the next text confirmed it. "This is Camila." I just sat there for a second, staring at the screen, like, of course, this is how my life is going right now. I showed Laura, and her eyes went wide, like, oh, this is about to get messy. She grabbed snacks like we were about to watch a movie, which honestly wasn't that far from the truth. I replied cautiously, "What do you want?" And she answered almost immediately, "I didn't know about you, not really. He told me you were his ex, that you couldn't move on. I found out last night, and I think you deserve to know the truth." You guys, my stomach dropped again because somehow it was still getting worse. Like every time I thought I hit the bottom, there was another layer I hadn't seen yet. I asked, "What truth?" And she sent a paragraph so long I had to sit up to read it properly. Apparently, Daniel had been telling her that I was basically obsessed with him, that we had broken up months ago, but I kept trying to get back together with him, showing up at his place, texting him constantly, making it hard for him to move on with her. I actually laughed out loud when I read that because it was so absurd. Like I had been the one asking him why he seemed distant, why he was always busy, and now I knew why. Camila kept typing more details, screenshots of conversations between them where he talked about me like I was some crazy ex who couldn't let go. He even sent her pictures of me from my social media and made comments about how I used to look better and how he felt bad for staying with me as long as he did. Reading that hurt more than the breakup itself because it meant he hadn't just betrayed me, he had been rewriting our entire relationship behind my back, turning me into a joke. Laura was pacing the room at this point, muttering things like, "I will fight him, I swear, I will fight him," and honestly, I was too numb to even react properly. I just kept scrolling through the messages, taking it all in piece by piece, like trying to assemble a puzzle I never wanted to see. Then came the part that changed everything. Camila said, "There's something else you need to know about the gift last night," and my chest tightened because I already knew it was bad, but somehow I wasn't prepared for how bad. She said Daniel didn't just ask for her opinion, he actually bought the necklace for her first. It was meant to be an apology gift after they had a fight, but then he decided to give it to you instead because he didn't want to spend more money. I swear I felt something in me go completely still, like no anger, no sadness, just this cold clarity, like everything finally made sense. The distance, the lies, the way he treated me at dinner like I was already out of his life. I wasn't even worth a separate gift. I was an afterthought. I didn't reply right away. I just put my phone down and stared at the wall for a long time. Laura eventually sat next to me and said, "Say something, please." And I realized I had been quiet for too long, like the kind of quiet that scares people. So I picked up my phone again and asked Camila, "Why are you telling me this?" And she said, "Because I broke up with him last night after I found out about you, and I'm not going to let him lie about me, too." That was the moment everything shifted. Not just the breakup, not just the betrayal, but the realization that he hadn't chosen her over me like I thought he had. He had just been playing both of us and lost both at the same time. A few minutes later, Daniel called again, and this time I answered, not because I wanted to hear his voice, but because I needed closure. He sounded relieved the second I picked up, like, "Thank God you finally answered. We need to talk about last night." And I just said calmly, "No, you need to listen." And for the first time in our entire relationship, I didn't let him interrupt. I told him I knew everything about Camila, about the lies, about what he said about me, and there was this long pause on the other end before he tried to laugh it off like it wasn't a big deal. "You're really going to believe some girl you don't even know over me?" And I said, "Yes, because she's not the one who lied to me for 6 months." He started getting defensive, then saying things like, "You're twisting everything, you always do this, you make yourself the victim." And I almost smiled because it was so predictable, like he had a script and he was sticking to it no matter what I said. So I let him talk for a minute, just listening to the excuses, the half-truths, the attempts to shift blame. And then, when he finally stopped, I said, "You gave me a gift that was meant for another woman and ended a 3-year relationship over dinner like it was nothing. There's nothing left to talk about." He went quiet again, and then his tone changed, softer, almost pleading. "Come on, don't throw everything away over a misunderstanding. We can fix this." And that's when I realized he still didn't get it. He still thought this was something he could control, something he could talk his way out of, like every other time he had crossed a line and I had forgiven him. I took a deep breath and said, "There's nothing to fix, Daniel. You already made your choice." And then I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking after, but it wasn't fear. It was something else, something closer to relief, like I had finally stepped out of something that had been draining me for longer than I realized. Over the next few days, things got messy. Daniel didn't take the silence well. He sent long texts alternating between apologizing and blaming me, saying he missed me, saying I was overreacting, saying we could start fresh like none of it had happened. At one point, he even showed up outside my apartment, which was honestly terrifying, but Laura and my neighbor scared him off before it escalated. Camila and I kept talking a little, not friends exactly, but there was this weird understanding between us, like we had both seen the same version of him and survived it. She told me more things about their relationship, how he would compare her to me without realizing it, how he always needed to feel like he was in control, how he couldn't handle being seen as anything less than perfect. It was like hearing about a completely different person, and yet somehow exactly the same. A week later, I got the final piece of closure I didn't know I needed. Daniel posted on social media a long, dramatic message about betrayal and fake people and how he was focusing on himself now. You know the type. And for a second, I felt that old urge to respond, to defend myself, to tell my side of the story. But then I stopped, because the people who mattered already knew the truth, and the ones who believed him weren't my responsibility. So I did something else instead. I went back to that restaurant, not for him, not for closure in some dramatic sense, but for me. I ordered the same table if I could, the same dish I barely touched that night, and I sat there alone, not crying, not angry, just present. And when the waiter brought the bill, I paid it without hesitation and left a bigger tip than I probably should have, because I could. And as I walked out this time, I realized something that felt bigger than everything that had happened. I didn't lose him that night. I lost the version of him I thought existed, and honestly, that's not a loss at all. It's been a few months now, and I'm not going to pretend everything is perfect. Healing isn't linear, and there are still moments where something reminds me of him, and I feel that old ache. But it's different now. It doesn't control me. I've started doing things I used to put off, seeing friends more, focusing on my work, even redecorating my apartment so it actually feels like mine again. The funniest part is I ran into him once, at a grocery store of all places. He looked smaller somehow, like the confidence he used to carry had faded. We made eye contact for a second, and I thought he might come over, say something, try to explain. But he didn't. He just looked away and walked down another aisle. And that was it. No big confrontation, no dramatic ending, just silence. And honestly, that felt like the perfect ending to a story that never should have lasted as long as it did.